Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/PettyRevenge. In today's episode, entitled Parker parked in my driveway so I blocked them in and got drunk all weekend. I found something my ex-husband accused me of destroying and I returned it. Park illegally in a disabled space, learn a very expensive lesson. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. Entitled Parker parked in my driveway so I blocked them in and got drunk all weekend. Friday night I came home from work to find someone on our block was having a large party and someone decided they were entitled to park in my driveway. Keep in mind my driveway is a single car width lined with a retaining wall on both sides and a garage at the end. Essentially impossible for a tow truck to come pull them out without property damage. Seeing this and the lack of street parking, I took this as a cue to park right behind them in my driveway. Now a few hours go by and their entitled Parker is now knocking at my door demanding I move my car so she can leave. Seeing as they were demanding, I informed them that I had been drinking and would not move my car. The entitled Parker then decides to call the police to get them to force me to move. When the police knocked on my door, I was sure to grab a beer from the fridge before I answered to talk to the officer. I had informed him that after I got home I was unwinding and had been drinking and was in no shape to drive. At this point their hands were tied because they couldn't tow her car out. I'm in no shape to drive, and I'm legally parked in my driveway. I ended up telling the entitled Parker that since it is a long weekend I would be on a weekend-long bender and they could come move my car after I go to work on Tuesday. Hello, police? I trespassed on someone's private property by parking my vehicle up their driveway and now they've parked behind me and won't let me out. I'm the victim here. I demand you come and punish them. Nice work, OP. I applaud your pettiness. Now you need to go grocery shopping or something this weekend and have it towed while you're out so it's gone by Tuesday morning. It's the expensive, longer play. Yes, I read the post about towing not being possible due to retaining walls and a garage. That still doesn't mean it cannot be done, it just depends on the skill or creativity of the driver. They've probably moved vehicles out of worse. A petty revenge best served with beer breath. WTF is it with people parking someone's driveway? I feel bad if I park in front of someone's house. I would never presume to just pull on in. People suck. This happened to my buddy in Brooklyn so many times that he bought a flat hydraulic jack and would just move the person's car into the middle of the street. Tow trucks would come quick when the car was blocking a lane. This is the pettiest revenge ever and we appreciate your efforts. I do hope that you're sitting in a leather swivel chair with a white cat on your lap whilst wearing a classy suit. I found something my ex-husband accused me of destroying and I returned it. My marriage, we were both in our 30s, this is important, had problems right away. One of the manifestations was him berating me for not going to an elite university. I went to a very good undergrad and an even better grad school, had not finished at that point, but he went to one of the best schools in the country, known for graduates with a chip on their shoulder. That was really all he had on me, and I would just laugh. Even his parents told him he was being a jerk and sounded like an idiot because I had an impressive education. Something I had never felt the need to discuss before. So anyway, he became really competitive about his college and especially his friends from college, very few he was still in touch with. This was before Facebook, and he had this photo box full of memorabilia. Cardboard, no lock or anything. I had a dozen or so myself. A normal thing would be to go through his and mine together and share memories and stories and bond. I didn't really care about what was in the box, and college stories are boring when you weren't there, but I would have listened. But the box became a symbol of everything wrong, with him constantly saying I'm not good enough for his college friends. At some point he forbid me to look in the box. Of course I didn't take this well. Telling me I wasn't good enough to see what's in the box was like kerosene. It got brought up in every fight. Like a death spiral of "you're jealous of my friends" / "your friends suck and I wouldn't like them anyway." I didn't say I was the hero in this story. Fast forward through years of abuse. We moved on to more spectacular fights, and the box fell pretty far down the list. Then, for some reason, one day he went up to the attic and couldn't find his box. He said I threw it away because I was jealous and petty. I didn't, but after a few years of this, he managed to convince me maybe I did. That's how abuse works. I begged his forgiveness. And it made me even more depressed about the depths to which my life had sunk. Finally got a divorce. Cops, ROs, the whole nine. I healed, moved on. Years later I sold my house, it was mine before, and when I was packing up I found the box. I had such an emotional reaction, my legs buckled. I sat on the floor and wept. My boyfriend was really sweet about it. He didn't know about the box. It's so ridiculous and I was so ashamed, but mostly I had put it all behind me by then. Until it all came rushing back. I called a mutual friend and asked him to come get the box so they could get it to him. People suggested I should throw it away out of spite, but I had something to prove. Before I turned it over, I put copies of 2 unpublished essays I wrote about what he did to me, along with a handwritten note: "I knew you didn't have the balls to kill me. And I sold your D&D books." Who's he going to tell? I mean, he probably will. But then he has to admit what's in the essays, and he's the 52-year-old man bitching 10 years post-divorce that his ex-wife sold his D&D books. Getting into that university is the most important thing that ever happened to him. It's Harvard. Gotta be Harvard. MIT is the better school anyway. I could have written your post. My ex used to hide things, then tell me I'd either lost the item through negligence or accuse me of deliberate destruction. If the item ever turned up again, he usually denied the previous conversation completely, and I was the crazy one for imagining it or making things up. I could never have one. So glad that we're both talking about our exes, and bravo on your revenge. Hugs. Sounds like proof you can go to one of the best colleges, but it won't cure stupidity. There's an expression that Harvard people use called dropping the H-bomb, which is the presumed stigma of telling people you went to Harvard. The premise is that you shouldn't tell people you went there because they will be so envious that they won't want to talk to you anymore, so you should say you went to college in Cambridge. Truth is, no one cares where you went to college, and Harvard people always tell you they went there anyway. Park illegally in a disabled space, learn a very expensive lesson. I have a disabled parking placard, and a few weeks ago I went to Target to buy things I didn't need and forget the things I did. Not only were all the spaces taken, someone parked their gigantic Escalade on the line between 2 disabled spaces, taking up both. Wholly irritated because this happens so much, I walked around the car, no placard or disabled plate. Cue the fury of someone who has to deal with this stuff all the time, and cue petty revenge. I took a pic and went inside to find a manager. When I found one, I showed her the photo and she rolled her eyes and sighed. Apparently, this happens a lot at their location, because it's near an affluent town with a lot of very wealthy, very entitled people, and most often it's the owners of huge SUVs and F-150s that park like jerks. She said she'd call the cops, so I decided to go back outside and hang out by the doors to watch the show. The manager joined me and we chatted while we waited for the police. The cops arrived and walked around the car, peering through the windows and running the plate. One cop took out a little book and started writing in it. They took some photos and one came over and asked if they'd make an announcement in the store to get the driver outside. The manager radioed someone inside and asked them to announce the make and model and plate of the car over the PA system. A few minutes later, she came charging out of the store. Middle-aged, well-dressed woman, the common Karen of North America, and already yelling at the police. As soon as she got to her car, one of the cops held up his hand to shut her up and started lecturing her. I was too far away to hear, but she stopped yelling at least. That cop spoke to her for a few minutes, and then the other cop with the little book handed her but 2 papers. She looked absolutely apoplectic. The cops came back over and spoke to the manager, telling her they ordered her to move her car and if she didn't or caused problems in the store to call them back and they'd tow the car. They told us they gave her 2 tickets, for each space at $500 each. Ouch. The manager thanked the police and me and went back inside. The woman stomped around a bit before getting in her car and peeling out. The cops looked at each other, then got in their cars and followed her. Pretty sure she continued to have the day she deserved. Meanwhile, I happily treated myself to some Legos for performing a public service. Edit, thank you for the awards and the response. It's so nice to hear from the disabled community and our caretakers. Your stories have touched me so much, and I'm glad my story made you feel a little vindicated. Smiley face. It felt really good to watch someone get actual consequences for their bad behavior, something seemingly rare these days. Maybe not as petty as this sub usually sees, but definitely revenge. As the daughter to a disabled father who needs a van space to get out in his wheelchair, thank you. It's even more fun when people pull into a disabled space diagonally across the space and into the striped zone. Like, they don't even bother pulling into the space, they just put their car wherever and leave it there. I swear, people have gotten so selfish and entitled over the last few years. They just do not care how their actions affect other people, they are always the main character. Uneasy face. Good for you. I once parked in a disabled space in a deserted service station. A disabled person showed up. I never felt so tiny in my life. People who park in disabled spots are scum. Legos were the perfect way to treat yourself. As someone who needs the wider spaces to open the car door fully or my hip locks, painfully, whilst trying to get out of the car, thank you so much. People who park in disabled parking bays without a valid badge really tick me off. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.